Hello, this is Jennetta Billhimer, and I'm here with Laura Lines, and she's going to be talking to us today about empowering struggling learners. And I think this is such an important topic because I think that so many of us do have, you know, learners in our home that are struggling in one way or another. And so this is really pertinent to so many of us. So
Yeah,
yeah, welcome, Laura. It's so nice to
thank
have you.
you. Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
So, well, tell me, how did you come to, being a mentor of mothers, a coach and all. What started you off on your journey, Laura?
Yeah, so we've been homeschooling for 4 years. I have 5 children. I'm expecting our sixth. And when I'm actually really surprised that I'm even on this journey because we were anti-homeschooling for years. We thought, it's weird and just all the stereotypical things, right? And I wasn't homeschooled, growing up. And anyways, but then,
Most of us weren't, right? And there are
right?
a lot more now that are, the
Totally.
second generation, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally.
you're like, yeah, schooling, that's weird, isn't it? But no,
Totally.
I think, and also a lot of people have homeschooled through COVID and all, and there's a lot more visibility, and a lot more people who have actually done it and understands maybe some things about it and
Yeah, it's definitely changed. And we all come from different circumstances and different reasons of why we're here. And anyways, my kids went to public school and they were limited. We ran into like blocks where they couldn't progress. They couldn't learn what they wanted to learn. I have a child who's a reader and he's very advanced, and they would not allow him to read certain books or like go to a section of the library that was for the older kids and stuff. And
what?
anyways, yeah. And then another child is very active and he needed to move, and he was only allowed to play in like the little kid playground, and it just wasn't enough space. It was like really small space, and he came home just melting down every day, which was very out of character for him. He was a calm child. And so to see him come home so emotional, I realized you need to move your body. You have needs that are not being met at school. And so collaboratively with my husband, we decided, let's just experiment and try it. And I was very
There you
intimidated at this
go.
time. But yeah, after we decided to do like every year we would reevaluate. And the first year was really hard. I fell into depression because I was so overwhelmed. I had lost myself, my own, like my identity, all the things that I was involved in had to be put on the back burner because now I had kids home 24/7 every day. And it just like threw me for a loop. And then at the same time, I had a child who was highly emotional, highly sensitive. And we were really struggling with him from like age 5, where he didn't know how to manage his emotions. And so anytime he would struggle, get in trouble, or just a challenging feeling, a difficult emotion, and he feels very strong emotions, very intense emotions, and he didn't know how to handle it. And so he even would express feelings of wanting to die because to him that was his way of getting out of it, or like escape, I guess. And anyways, then of course I would reflect that, or mirror that, and feel like something was wrong with me as a mom because I didn't know how to help my child. And so just so many things, I fell into depression. And I had so many friends and family that said, just put your kids in school. That's the answer, and I
Because then
didn't
you
think.
don't have to accept any responsibility for it, right? It's the
Totally.
school or, and
Yeah, let's just go the easy way. For me, that wasn't the answer. In fact, I needed my children. Like they were like I held on to life for them during that time. And so they gave me purpose. And so anyways, for me, I was like, we're going to figure this out. And that's when I found life coaching. And life coaching gave me the tools to learn to manage my own brain, to manage my thoughts and emotions, and to learn how my thoughts create all my results in my life. Everything it comes from my way of thinking, and that I could learn to control, for example, my time management. I learned a lot of self-care habits and just learned how to prioritize myself. Because before it was just like we're so used to giving everything to our kids, to our husbands, to our family, just give, give, give. and then we don't take care of ourselves. And so for me, that was huge. As I learned to take control of my life by taking control of my thoughts and emotions, then I was able to offer more support to my child who was struggling, and offer him tools, the same tools that I was learning. I kind of adapted them to a child, and he has grown so much and learned how to manage himself as well. So that's kind of like the beginning of where our journey started with all of this. And then it eventually has been so life-changing. We are forever homeschoolers. It has changed the way we approach learning. It has changed our relationships as a family. We take personal responsibility for our emotions, for our lives, versus being so codependent on each other, where I was codependent. My children, they were codependent on me. It's just, we're able to find peace because we create that peace. We don't rely on our circumstances to give us that peace. Whereas before, that's what we were doing. Whether it's peace or joy or whatever emotion it is that we wanted to feel, it was coming from the circumstance that we were in, which is great until the circumstance isn't a great circumstance, and then life's hard. But the idea that we can truly feel peace and joy regardless of our circumstances is kind of the gist.
That's such an important life lesson to learn also, that we can be happy whatever our circumstances are. I think that's one of the main things that we're going to need in the future, because who, like what the circumstances are going to change, and it's the future's so uncertain. So that's huge.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally agree. So then I'm trying to transition to like our schooling methods and kind of like how this translates to that.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so our first year, we were very public school minded, tried to recreate the public school at home, just change the location, right? And our kids just resisted that. It was a really hard shift for them. We deschooled and all of that. But yeah, eventually I just threw out all the books, and I was just like, you know what, for this first year, we're just going to let you take the lead, and we're going to follow you. And we'd go to the library and say, what do you want to learn about? Let's find books about what you're interested in. It was very child-led. And that is what changed everything. Our kids, we really connected with them, and we learned how each of them learned so differently. And I love that part of homeschooling, is that we can really customize the learning experience to each child. And then, so where coaching comes into this, is the main idea is that let me back up a little bit. Emotions drive all actions. So if you think about it, with us, any action that we take in life, it's always fueled by an emotion that we're feeling. And if we're not taking a certain action in our life, it's because we're not feeling an emotion that drives that action. So it drives inaction. And so I think where we go wrong as moms is we are so focused on our children's actions or their results. So all of our emotions drive our actions, and our actions create all of our results. And we focus so much on the action and result part. Our kid isn't learning, or our child isn't reading. We also have this mindset of the rules, right? When they should be able to read. Oh no, and then we panic, and then we're operating from scarcity, and something's wrong. And when we show up that way, it affects them and their confidence, and anyways, then we sabotage their whole.
Because who's to say when somebody should start reading or when they should start doing something? And because I think that's really been harmful for children. We just, in the United States, well, okay, this is what we need to do here, and when, and then, but what about other countries? I think, it's different in other countries.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So thank you. You just actually brought me right to what I wanted to go to next. And that is, during this time, we have ancestors from Finland, and we somehow miraculously connected with a cousin, very distant cousin, through doing family history, with a cousin from Finland. And we were talking about their educational system there, and they don't start preschool until age 8.
Really?
And age 8. It's
For us,
fascinating,
that's like,
right?
oh no, if they're not
We
reading by 8 or whatever, they're
Yeah,
just
we
starting
push things so
preschool then.
fast. Absolutely, yeah. And
So
so
what are they
during that,
doing? Yeah, before. I
all
mean,
that,
what did they say about that? I'm so
yes,
interested because they have really
right.
good rates, don't they,
Yes,
in
they lead globally in education in of all the countries. And I mean, I think they're pretty famous for their education. Kids there love learning, and there's some really cool documentaries about this that kind of follow kids through their education and how when they graduate, they know what they want to do. Like they're empowered and they're ready and prepared for life. Whereas like I feel like a lot of times here,
not
it's like you
always true
graduate and then
usually.
it's like, yeah, I have a
I guess
diploma, but
we're supposed to go to college now. And then by the time you get out of college, hopefully you know what you want to do.
yeah. And I know for me, like,
And there's only one thing that you're supposed to do, and that's your, going to be your job. It's not about, yeah, reinventing yourself or anything if necessary. It's just, yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I know when I graduated high school and went to college, that's when I started to love learning. I didn't love learning before that because it was like the a requirement, but when it was my choice, like, what do you want to learn? Then it was like, okay, now this is fun because I get to decide. And so I think that's
really
where we
read the
need,
books I want to read,
right?
right? Where before you're
Yeah,
like, I kind of just don't want to open another book. So tired of this.
totally. And like you were saying, like, I believe that we are all given desires in our hearts to lead us to who we're supposed to be in this life, to fulfill our purpose in life, to become who we're meant to become. And so, like, um, I heard a conversation once about this where they were like, um, the kid was like, oh, but I want to become a basketball player, or I'm never going to become a basketball player. And they were like, is that what you really want to do? And ultimately, it wasn't, because, we're not all meant to be that. If we're true, whatever we're truly meant to be, we're going to have that desire and we're going to become that person because it's coming from inside. Not all of us need to learn higher levels of math because we're not all going to become engineers or, I don't know, astronomers or whatever, like,
Really?
career
We
that
don't all
needs
have to
that
do
stuff.
algebra?
Right. But yeah, in the school system, we all have like this box learning where we all have to learn the same things in order to meet the standards and, graduate. So anyways, that's just kind of my personal belief. And I think we have so much pressure on ourselves that our kids should be at a certain level. And so I just love the flexibility of homeschooling and just really understanding that, like, there's no rules. Like, we get to do things how we want to do things. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. And taking off all that pressure really puts me in a more motivated place to take more action, to try things I wouldn't try before, to help my kids in ways I couldn't help them before, because the sky's the limit. Like, we can do anything. And giving my kids that space to really seek the things that they love and to give them opportunities that before we were so married to a curriculum or to like a manual or a workbook, right? And we still use curriculum, but we use it as a springboard. It serves us. We're not serving it. It's not our master. It's kind of, we're the master and we
Yeah,
use it
I
for
think
us.
I think curriculum is a huge concern for particularly parents who are just starting off, and you're trying to find the best curriculum, and it can just be this huge maze because when I started homeschooling, there really just wasn't a whole lot of curriculum. And but now there's just so much that it's just hard to know what to do. And I'm glad that I actually started earlier because I kind of just had to, you know, um, I don't know, just kind of be led and pick and choose from a few different things that were just fantastic, and they were everything that we needed, and just kind of pick from that, that smorgasbord of all these great resources, from the library um, to things that my mother-in-law gave us to just a lot, just there were so many different things. But
Mhm.
now it's just I think that's a place that people can get really overwhelmed because we're supposed to have the perfect curriculum and what's everyone else doing instead of
Mm.
focusing on, well, being led to what our children personally need and what they need that day. Um, because sometimes I just sit down with my kids and I'm like, I pull out a book and that's what we do. But I feel really like I'm really led to that too.
Absolutely.
So, um, so
It's
yeah,
interesting because, like, if you think about it, we don't feed ourselves, our bodies, the same thing every day. We have a variety of things that our body needs. And it's kind of the same thing with our minds. We nurture our minds in a variety of ways. And it's not always from a book, although sometimes it is. And so, like, I like to think of it like a buffet. And each day, my child has a buffet. We have a variety of options, variety of resources. Sometimes they're books, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're, YouTube or technology type things. Sometimes it's outside, just, a
it's just an
very,
abundance, a rich abundance. That's
there's
the
so
thing
many
of
ways
it.
to learn today.
And so many wonderful classics and then like you say, being outside and every day there's so much that's available that an expensive curriculum is not something that is super important. I mean, there are some really great curriculums, and then you might want to
Sure.
spend some money on some, but so many homeschoolers just are able to just do it for free because there's museums and there's all these different things that that you can do. Lots of different,
Absolutely.
even just going
Absolutely.
out on hikes, ways to homeschool on a shoestring. That was a book originally that
Yeah,
I really liked. There's so many opportunities
there really is.
online. There's ideas, so many ideas, and
And it's interesting too, because
interesting.
going back to the idea that each kid is so different and learns very differently, that's important because, we can really cater to each child, and the curriculum that works for one isn't going to work for another. And so we really have to be intuitive and know our child, and help them discover themselves. That's where the empowerment is. And that's where, just going back to what Finland did, those first 8 years, they focused on emotional and social development. And I mean, that totally aligns with kind of how we shifted when we were struggling, to nurturing our children's emotions, because it's the emotions that drive the actions. So if I want my children to take certain actions, my job isn't to force those actions, it's to nurture the emotions that will drive those actions. Did I say that right? Sorry, in
Set
my
that
head.
foundation, then
Exactly.
that takes care of a lot of that.
Right.
I think you have to return to that core that you build in the beginning, every now and then to remind them that this is your education and and nurture the emotions and all of that. But yeah, even before you even before love of learning,
Right.
that's the
Exactly.
foundation for it.
Right. And what's crazy is, like,
Mhm.
what's that?
Well, yes, and the concepts of just being a kind person and things, just those core things that are so important before you even you go to love of learning. Of course, there's just always love of learning and things,
Sure.
they're so fluid, but yeah, that
Yeah.
foundation, I think is seems like that's what you're talking about.
Yes, absolutely. It's interesting because a lot of clients, when I work with, about this and then introduce this idea, they will say, "Oh, but if I just gave my kids the space to do whatever they want and really didn't, like, worry about their actions and results, then they're just gonna, like, play video games all day." Or we get really nervous that they're not going to take the actions. And that's where, I know for me, I had to trust the process and then focus on who I wanted to be and show up who I wanted to be. Because if I'm operating from that scarcity, from those nerves or the negative emotions, it's going to affect them. And my job is to show up as my best self. And that is how I can influence my children. And so doing that internal work on me, whereas, like, in the beginning, I was a mess. I was like, um, so codependent on their results. My child was reading at level, or if my child was whatever, then I felt like a good mom.
And I
And
think most of us can relate. Yeah,
totally.
yeah, I think that we do that a lot as moms. We sit back and we're like, hey, am I doing this right? And
Yeah,
yeah, and then when it doesn't look right, then we can get into that place of depression quite easily.
absolutely.
A lot of moms
So
deal with that, and with a lot of voices about
Totally.
doing this right.
Absolutely. But when we get rid of that idea that doing it right, there's no right way. And when we can really truly believe that we're doing it right, no matter how we're doing it, even if our kids play video games all day, like when we believe we're doing it right, regardless of our children's actions and their results, then that is going to lead us, because our emotions and our actions and our results all come from our thinking. So it's all about developing that mindset that creates the result of who we want to be, the experience we want to have, because we can't control anything for our children. We try, but we can't. And then we get to show up as the most supportive emotionally for our children. And then we can best support them, especially these struggling children that are trying to figure things out. For my kids, we went through, ups and downs during this process, but for a while I was like, my kids aren't doing anything. They're not learning anything. It just felt like they're playing every day. And then I just kept telling myself, learning is everything, right? Or sorry, play is learning right now. That's what they need to learn. They need to learn how to play. They need to learn how to be kids, because that is being like ripped away from kids today. Their childhood, I feel like kids grow up too fast, and I really wanted them to have their childhood. So we went through a phase of just play, and just learned so much through that period of time that wasn't necessarily academic or the things that the world would say they're learning. They were learning so much, growing together and just bonding. And anyway, so many different, and academics was kind of weaved in. We do a lot of, cooking, and all my children love to cook. And it's so fun because like even my 5-year-old loves to make eggs, and they have all found ways to make eggs that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know you could make eggs so many different ways. It is amazing. And we have chickens, and so they love to get the eggs every day and make eggs. They'll have eggs for breakfast or even like a snack in the afternoon. They're making eggs. And anyways, I just share that because it's kind of funny. Where was I going with that? Oh, I was going to say, I was just having a conversations about this today with somebody. And, for a while I was worried, like, are they going to learn anything? Are they going to take charge? Because ultimately I want them to take the lead. I want them to take their education and drive. I don't want to be driving their educational car for them. I want them to be driving and I'm in the passenger. My job is not to be their teacher, but to be their guide and their mentor. And I want to empower them with the tools to go after whatever it is that they want. And that all comes from the emotional support and the emotional nourishment and nurturing. And now, like, my kids wake up, like today, I think one of my kids woke up at like 3:30. He's nuts. They like have this like game where they like try to see who can wake up the earliest to get their school done. Anyways, it's really funny. But
so why did they do that? Do you think? Why are they trying to get their school, have a race to get their school done?
Yeah.
What do they get from getting their school done?
They don't get anything
Their
like physical,
done.
right? Yeah. And this is just like their book work. I mean, I don't.
Yeah. Because you do, I feel like it's important to have goals too. And so
Sure.
say that, you have a goal to accomplish math, and you want to learn that, you want them to learn math, and then they decide, yeah, I really want to learn and be good at this. And so yeah, like that you want to continue on with that goal. And so you have that work that for them to do. They're not just playing all the time, right? So maybe talk a bit about that.
Well, I love the term free range learning with firm fences. That's kind of how I describe what we do. And that means like back to like, oh, my kids, if I just let them do whatever they want, they'd never do anything. Like we have fences that I call boundaries or structure in our home. They wake up and they have morning 5, which is like brush teeth, say prayers, get dressed, like the 5 core things that they should do first thing in the morning, or that I'm trying to train them.
Kids seem to do better with structure. They're not so,
there's definitely structure. They have a morning chore that they are responsible for, and it rotates each week. Like we have that type of structure. But then when it comes to learning, like within that bound, it's free range, like, kind of like the buffet idea. So, I think
Capture the
over,
time, but not necessarily the content,
exactly.
is how the DeMilles describe it.
Mhm. I think over time, they just kind of learned or realized like, okay, if I get this done early, instead of taking all day to do it, because before it'd be like all the winding and resisting, and then that would just drag it on, and but now like our
Relate.
days, right? Our
Moms,
days,
all the moms out there can kind of relate, at least.
totally.
Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of us.
totally. But yeah, now our days are filled with more like projects or swimming, or just like they have so much free time, they can really. And personally, I think that's where the learning comes from. Like the learning isn't in the books. The learning is like, what do we want to do today? Being responsible for our time and deciding how we want our day to go. And it's like, it's in their hands. And I think that is more life preparation. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Well, and I just think about my daughter who she has her math that she's decided she wants to do, but she's not always excited to do it. Um because it's something that's like one of those things that she's learning how to a life skill of doing something that she doesn't necessarily love to do. She doesn't, hate it, but well, maybe some days she does. But it's just kind of one of those things where there's something that she's got to do, and because she set a goal for herself. And we all are going to deal with that as adults. So she does her math, and she's like your kids. She first thing, a lot of mornings she'll grab her math book and just want to be doing it even while we're having our devotional in the morning, devotional time. And because she has a goal that if she does a certain amount of you know math lessons, then she is going to go and have herbal boba tea with her friends at the boba house or whatever. And so she has this goal that she's going to do that, and that can help keeps her going. But it's a life skill to do things that are hard, and so that's one of the good things about doing something, to having a goal and learning. You can learn math pretty fast as an adult, even if you haven't done it a whole lot younger, when you were younger, if you really want to learn it. But I think it's good to be able to work through a program, something like that. So
Absolutely. And
yeah.
just to tie emotions back into that, like I love this idea that I've learned through this coaching model that I teach, is that like the goal goes in the result line, right? And so that's what we're trying to create. And you know what's cool? We can put anything in our result line, and we can create anything. We can like that, just really like the idea of like, what if it was impossible to fail? You can create and achieve any goal. And a lot of times what stops us from doing hard things or doing like big things that we think are impossible is our fear of failure. But back to like your little story, like what is the emotion that you allow yourself to feel? Or what is the emotion that you will feel when you achieve that goal? That emotion is what's going to get you to that goal, because our emotions are what drive all of our actions and create our results. And so
See that and feel it already, then we want to do that then.
absolutely. And so that's yeah. And a lot of times we think the opposite, like I don't know, for example, if you're trying to lose weight, let's just use that for example, and you think, when I reach a certain goal weight wise, then I'm going to feel a certain amount of love for myself, or I'm going to feel worthy, or I'm going to feel beautiful, or whatever. But if you are nurturing that emotion first, working on your mindset that you already are beautiful, that's not what makes you beautiful, and you really believe that your value and you're lovable and all of that, you nurture that first. That is what drives your actions of doing the things to take care of your body. And then that's where you reach your goal faster. It comes from that love and that self-care. But we try to get the result first before we allow ourselves to feel the emotion. So it's the emotion that drives everything.
There.
And it's the same with children. So that is kind of the core of everything, is the emotions for what we've learned.
Yeah.
Did you have
Well, I'm just thinking that sometimes, so it's great for people to have a mentor, because sometimes you set off and you set out for a goal, and then it can just be you may not ever get it done because you don't continue with that vision. You don't have somebody that's there helping you, and which is a good thing for our kids. They have someone who continually says, okay, it's time for math. And
Right.
it's kind of nice I just think that, well, when I worked with mentors in the past, that's really helped me to stay on track, or to have an accountability partner to report back and say, yes, I did my little goal for that day, and that kind of thing. So, and you were talking about how you coach women, and
Yeah.
moms, and um, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to address is like, why do we as moms struggle with our struggling children, right? So like, we've been talking a lot about our struggling learners, but why do we struggle so much with them when they're struggling? And what's interesting
Hard.
is it's because we think our children is the reason for our struggle. And so this kind of goes back to like the emotion. What are we allowing ourselves to think and feel about them when they're struggling? It's not the child or their behavior that is causing our frustration or our whatever emotion that we're struggling with.
Of course.
It's our thought, right? It's our thoughts about them. And so, yeah, that's where our work is working on managing our own thoughts and getting out of trying to fix our child. Because when we're trying to fix our child, that's when they're going to resist and struggle more. And so then that leads to the next question is, why do our children struggle? And I believe it's because we don't give them the space to struggle, right? Like when our kids are struggling, we want to save them. We don't want them to struggle. We don't want them to do hard things or feel hard things or whatever. But yeah, really giving them that space to struggle.
We'd
Struggling
rather
is a
go
good
through those
thing.
hard things for them instead, so that they didn't have to go through it. We want them
Right.
to be
And
happy.
right. And then we just make it harder for ourselves and harder for them when we try to save them from their struggles. And so, yeah, I work with that.
What will they learn? Maybe they've been given those struggles so that they can,
Absolutely.
so that they're ready for the future.
Absolutely. So it's definitely a learning process for everyone. And a lot of moms think that fixing their children is the answer to their own problems. And so I start with working on moms, helping them with their mindset, and then it eventually kind of bleeds over to empowering the children with the same tools. It's the exact same work.
Yeah. And then when you've gone through something yourself, then you can help your kids better.
Absolutely.
So work on yourself first, then, is what you're saying.
Yep, exactly. Darn it.
Right? No, it's the kids' problem.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so, well, you have a program
Yeah. So
for
actually
moms.
I do have a couple things. I have a 6-month program that I'm launching a little bit later in the year because I'm having a baby. But just to get ready for that, I'm teaching a few like shorter classes, like 6-week classes.
Uh-huh.
So this one that I have coming up next is going to start April 27th. And it's a 6-week course where we will dive into the learning emotions that drive learning actions and learning results. So that whole idea of like getting out of their action line and their result line and not trying to control that or manipulate it and letting go of that power, handing that back to the child. And then our job is just to focus on nurturing their emotions. And we can't force them to feel an emotion, but we can nurture their emotions, especially through mindset, because through this work, we learned that all of our emotions are generated from our thoughts, not from our circumstances, right? And so when we can nurture their thoughts and their mindset and it's kind of like I coach women and then I help women coach their children on their mindset. So it's like a secondary level of mentoring and coaching.
And
And
you can
so,
feel it first and experience it. so that
Yeah.
before you can help someone else. So before you can help
Right.
your child. So that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And you learn more from teaching others anyway. So it's really cool how when, you teach these skills and these tools to your children, it's like taking your learning to another level. But anyway, so we go through the 5 learning emotions that drive learning. And then you'll also learn specific tools to feel empowered as moms to create the homeschool experience that you want to have, regardless of our children, because our children are our circumstances. They don't create our emotions. They don't create our results. They're just separate. But we can create the homeschool experience that we want to have, and we get to create who we want to be regardless. And that's really empowering to show up as the mom that I want to be every single day, no matter what happens, no matter who's having the meltdown. Otherwise, like if I'm dependent on my child for my emotions, like I end up having a meltdown. If they're not, they have a meltdown and then I think something's gone wrong, and then I end up having an emotional meltdown as well.
And then the whole
Yeah.
home can go into a tailspin.
Yes, exactly. We've all been there, and yeah,
Right.
I'm not claiming to be perfect. My life definitely has our struggles. We're working through things as well. But man, these tools have really empowered us and given us something to work with.
And you're on this
So
like higher level because you've gone through this and you know what to do now. And other people, I'm sure other moms would love to be up at that level and be able to show up regardless of what was going on and be able to help their kids
yeah, I think
help the day to
just
go on.
understanding a lot of this is just understanding how our brains work, and that like the way our brains are operating, we have a million thoughts a day, but they're all a lot of them are subconscious. We're not really aware of how those thoughts are affecting our lives, how they're affecting what's going on in our life. And so this work is really about like taking those subconscious thoughts and bringing them to the surface and doing what we call thought work. It's like, okay, we're going to study our thoughts and take an inventory of our thoughts when something's gone wrong, or when, whatever emotion we're struggling with. It's just like we do these thought downloads where we dump our thoughts and take a look at them, and then really like decide, is this a thought that's serving me? What is this thought creating for me? Because we know all of our results come from our thoughts. So we take each thought and really decide, what is it creating for me? And is it serving me? Do I want to keep this thought? Because we have that power to decide our thoughts and to choose to keep them or toss them. And anyways, it's there's a process for that. So that is
huge, because we can just have like, we can have so many thoughts that are going through our minds every day, like hundreds of like so many thoughts.
And they impact us in ways we don't even realize. We're not thinking about our thinking. We're just thinking.
It's empowering to know that you can choose your thoughts and you can say, no, I don't accept that one.
Sure.
This is what I believe, and this is where we're going.
A huge one for me was my home, the state of my home, because it's hard to keep a clean house when your kids are home all day, every day. And
they're small.
Yeah, I noticed that I felt a lot of shame around my home. And so doing this work, I learned like, okay, where's the shame coming from? Because shame is not a motivating emotion. It doesn't drive me to be my best self. It doesn't drive me to show up who I want to show up as in my home and family, or even for myself. And it's not kind and loving to myself, right? But that shame was coming from thoughts of looking at a mess, or looking at, whatever that I was looking at, the order of my house, and thinking like, you're a bad mom, or this is your fault, or this is a reflection of, the kind of, I don't know, just like those thoughts that I wasn't aware of, that they were impacting me in such a negative way. And so then I would take those thoughts and start to ask questions to really challenge those thoughts. Like, why is this thought not true? What is beautiful about my home? And I developed a relationship with my home and strengthened that relationship with my home. And now I love my home, and I treat my home as like my best friend. So even when it's messy, I love it anyways. Just like my best friend, I love her anyways, right? We're all a hot mess sometimes, and that's okay. That's part of life. And so it's just, it's about strengthening our mindset and our relationship with ourselves, really. A lot of how our relationships are, whether it's our spouse or other people, the way we show up is a projection of how we feel about ourselves. And so healing that inner self and our relationship with ourselves is huge in this work. So yeah, going back to the program, sorry, I kind of got off on the tangent.
That's
The
great.
last thing is you'll get an opportunity to get coached personally in these calls on anything that's going on in your life that you need help with. And it will all be mindset coaching, working on this, rewiring your brain to think more powerful thoughts that will create the actions and the results that you want in your life. And yeah, so it will be a 6-week course. I think I said starting Wednesday, April 27th, 7 to 8 p.m. Pacific time. And the cost is $99 for the 6-week program. Yeah. And then during that program, I will give a lot more details to the 6-month program that I'll be starting up later on in the year after my baby's born.
Oh my goodness. I just think that so many moms can use this because, just as they're preparing for the next season, we're in the middle kind of, of this season and all, and just preparing for the next seasons that are coming up that, maybe we've had some hard times this last year in our homeschools. Maybe it's gone perfectly, but I don't know if I don't know. I think there's quite a few moms who are like, yeah, I'd like to do things differently. How do I do this? How do I show up the very best that I can show up in our homeschool? And also, so what does this look like? Is it like a Zoom call that everyone gets on, and it's a group that all to meet together? And
this one is a group course, so group sessions via Zoom. I do offer private coaching for if there's somebody who needs some one-on-one private coaching. That there's definitely benefit to that. They can reach out and ask me about that as well. So this is Also, I did want to mention that, just to clarify, the way I do homeschooling is very unique to our family and our needs and just kind of how we've evolved. And I know that not everybody's there yet, and that's fine. Especially with COVID, there's so many different ways to school and to educate, even to homeschool. There's so many different ways to homeschool. And like I said earlier, there's no right or wrong way to do it. And so in my coaching, there's so many different types of coaching out there in the world. I don't action coach, which means I don't tell you what to do or how you should do it or what's better or worse or whatever.
Scholars are like, no, don't tell me how to do it. Because you couldn't do it. They realize you can't do it that way anyway. You've got to
absolutely not
do it your way. That's going to, and for that season of your life, you have a new baby or
it's all about discovering what's best for you and what's best for your family. And so I guide through the mindset to help align your life, your actions with who you want to be, with your value system and your beliefs. And that's kind of how we do it.
I love that. I love the sound of that. Just sounds like it would be, it's just going to be so awesome and helpful for so many moms because we all, and just even be able to meet together and connect and see what,
that support
that looks for others. I think we learn a lot from others as we're going through a program like that.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. That sounds really exciting. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to link the information for the class with this video. And so
you have my email address. So, that's how people can get in touch with me, and also my Instagram and Facebook information there. They can connect there as well. Just reach out.
We'll just put that down below, and then you can just go there and then I really encourage you to get into contact with Laura because there's help, and I just think it'd be really fun to be part of a group like this too. So, and just to be able to get together and talk, and we're just all evolving. I think this is, and there's these certain points where if you, that can just turn you into this really wonderful direction with your homeschool. And I think that this is would be an absolutely wonderful place to be for 6 weeks.
It's really neat because looking back on my first year and how much we struggled and the depression that I experienced and where my kids were, and we had some hard days. and I didn't think we were going to survive.
Because you
But
care.
yeah,
Until you're like, I just don't care. There's
yeah.
that really,
Now, I am so grateful for the challenge. I'm so grateful for those hard days because it's what pushed us towards where we are today. And we're not done learning and growing. We're still challenging ourselves to do hard things. And I'm just so grateful for where those challenges took us. And yeah, it's a crazy thing to be grateful for something that was so hard. Those challenges.
yeah, I know it's crazy to look back and say that was so good for me.
Yeah, totally.
But then, if that is just like that turning point where if you can get to somewhere where there's just that turning point that can head you into the direction that you want, that just makes all the difference. And I think having you in our lives is wonderful because you know how to take people to that next level and moms
Right.
and homeschools. So
Absolutely.
I'm so
Yeah.
excited that I've been able to have you on today
Yeah.
because I love finding wonderful resources that really, really actually can help moms to continue going forward and for homeschool to continue in homes um,
Yes.
for the kids and for families and for the moms, as we grow
Absolutely.
together and we just keep learning ourselves.
Absolutely. It's amazing. I tell myself like we started homeschooling for the kids, but now we do it for me.
Yeah. Because we all benefit, don't
So
we? We're all together as a
yeah,
family, and it just makes family life so much better, I think, to be able to
totally.
homeschool and not to have somebody else in,
Beautiful.
yeah, their muddy paws and everything that you're in charge and
Yeah,
yeah, you can just work through inspiration and go forward and your
it's
most powerful
beautiful.
self.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you for being here today, Laura. I really appreciate you. And everybody get signed up with Laura. I think it's going to be a super, super fun group to be a part of.
Thank
So
you so
again,
much.
yeah, go email Laura. Go right now and just email her and say, hey, I'm interested. I want to know more, and ask her those questions that you have for her. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Thanks for having me. I've really enjoyed talking to you. It's been
You're
really
so
fun.
welcome. I so enjoyed talking with you too and getting to know you, Laura.
Yeah.
Accepting my invitation. I'm so glad that
Welcome.
for what you have to offer to the homeschooling moms of the world. So
Thanks.
thank you again.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.